Hey there, guys. On this week's episode, we are diving into pricing and packaging your offers. So grab a drink, settle down, grab a green juice or some coconut water, and let's get down to business. I asked my good friend, Michelle Ellis, who works with me, to come and join me for this episode because I think two brains are sometimes better than one. So Michelle, can you just introduce yourself and tell everyone a little about you?
Yeah, so I've been a copywriter for going into 9 years, I think now. And yeah, I work a lot with health coaches too, and people in the, health and um, fitness and, that type of holistic niche. And it's been really awesome. I would say the last 9 years now, and really helping health coaches and helping you really see them make their impact in the world when it comes to people's health. Because I started out as a health coach, so that's really where my heart is.
Went to the same school.
Yeah. So for me, it's like, I love just getting to be a part of that, like the marketing aspect and seeing them move their business forward, because that means more people get impacted and their lives change, which is why I got into health coaching to begin with.
So
Yeah.
before we even dive into the pricing, which I know everyone wants to hear, because this is one of the biggest questions people ask me, is what do I include in my coaching practice? What do I include in that transformation? And what's the price? So let's even talk about how essential it is to think carefully about what you're including in a package to be able to equate that value. Because I think a lot of coaches will just say, oh, I'm going to include 4 sessions that month, but they're not including what is that step-by-step transformation. And so having a difficult time getting past the imposter syndrome of pricing, but really also stepping into that place where you're thinking like your ideal client, what's going to make them spend that money.
Yeah. And I think it's also, you should know the results that you're promising, from your coaching. And also, I think what's so important and often overlooked when it comes to pricing and packaging is the time spent that is also not like listed, right? So like I remember when I first started health coaching, that email follow-up and like having that communication outside of those sessions can be really long. That's sometimes, let's say that's 2 hours within that month or something. It's completely unaccounted for. So I think it's really important to know at least your base hourly rate, what you really want to get paid, so that you can then, when you're packaging it all, figure out how much time you're actually spending and allot that time appropriately with your client.
I'll say one of the biggest things that I've seen coaches implement, and I know I started to do it myself when I was feeling extremely burned out in coaching, because you only have so many hours in the day and you only have so much time for follow-up. So to leverage and be able to either leave that job that you wanted to leave or make this a full-time gig, you really have to make the money you need. One of the tricks is to actually look at your packaging with one-on-one, almost like an automation. Mm-hmm. So I started to, instead of during the week, say, okay, so I'll see you in 2 weeks, and just have email back and forth, email back and forth. I made sure I was sending like 2 emails a week that became standard for that type of client, for that type of program.
Yeah, I think a lot of that also has to do with health coaches having the resources that you've created as far as programs, because, years ago when just coming out of nutrition school, we didn't have that. We were like, I remember, at least in my experience, just getting like a ton of different handouts and trying to decipher it. There was no real program.
There wasn't even a coach. I think the hardest thing is you're trying to figure out, what is my coaching flow? So I know when I came out of school, I was like, oh yeah, someone's going to pay me $150 an hour and I'm going to give them handouts. And they were so far past the handout. And that's why I got frustrated and started to create my programs for Rachel's Wellness, because I will never forget a client that I was seeing who lived in my neighborhood. I was seeing her and her family. They were a client, and she went and bought this like 5-day detox. And I told her I could have put these recipes together for her. She's like, I know, but it just looks so pretty. It just looks so it was just, it's so easy to grab. And it was at that moment that I was like, I better include these kind of things in my packages so that I can charge more, so that I can make sure that I don't have to go back to a job that I didn't want to be at anymore. And I started packaging my offers with programs and then very specific details on what that chat support throughout the month looked like.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what's so great too about having like the different programs to figure out, like, it all goes back to like, what's your niche and having that signature program and being able to package that into your services, because it's super important, you know, for people to feel like they have a plan and they know like what's to come. You know, it's not just like you're flying by the seat of your pants and you don't know what's going to come up the next session or what you're working on or anything. It actually helps to see the results and the
structure. I think it helps to structure the coaching sessions, whether you're working one-on-one or in a group. But I think that also when you're thinking about packaging, I mean, you've written countless work with me pages. When you're thinking about packaging an offer, what are things that you have told your clients to look to create, or that they explain to you and you end up putting the words together?
Yeah, I mean, even just recently, I had written a work with me page for like a new coach, not in health, but they didn't know like what they were offering. Like there was nothing there, and I'm just like, well, I'm trying to write the page, you know. So I was like, it's specific questions, like how many sessions is it per month? How long is it? Is it 90 days? Is it 6 months? Are you offering any type of Facebook group support or Voxer support or WhatsApp? You know, they were international. So just, you know, using like an email support, like what are you doing here? You know, like, and how long are these sessions? Because people want to know that what they're buying, you know, they want to know what their investment is, where it's going.
Well, and I learned over time to really detail, like, this package is for you if you have the following issues. Who is this package not for? And then really getting down and gritty, like you will get access to a guide, X amount of pages based on my X method or based on my X, you know, signature blueprint, for gut health or for hormone health, whatever that signature program is offering, whatever that transformation is. But I made sure I would say X amount of recipes, like almost make it a mini sales page.
Yeah, I think that's so important too, especially, you know, coming from that health coaching experience. It's like clients, they want to know what to do, right? Because like, it's like you so often you go to the doctors and they tell you what you should do. And then you are left kind of figuring it out. You're not getting a nutrition plan. You're not getting, you know, meals or groceries or anything like that. So you're kind of left to fend for yourself a bit. Whereas where coaching comes in, it's like, I have a step-by-step plan. I'm even going to show you how to like make over your kitchen or your pantry and eat these types of foods. And that's a level of coaching that clients need to get the results that they want. And then also figuring out when you're packaging, how much of you are you giving, you know, like what does that look like? Right. Because people do want to feel supported during that whole process. Otherwise they would just get a book and try to do it themselves. But, you know, to figure out like, oh, wow, I can look forward to every Friday. I have a meeting with my, you know, health coach and like that. I know like these are the issues that I could bring up. And that's so important to feel that level of support. So I think knowing what kind of experience do you want to give your clients is really what it boils down to, and how much support. And I think that would help health coaches once they decide that, package it. And then once they know their hourly rate, price it accordingly, because then you can decipher how much time you're spending.
Well, I always think hourly rate is extremely important because a lot of people will do workshops that they're getting paid for. So it's really important to know what you're going to charge for that workshop and a speaking. How long is that going to be? You need to know your hourly rate to come up with VIP days, which are really fun days where you're working with somebody more like 4 to 6 hours. I love doing them. They were people that wanted to come and like clean out their pantry, go to Whole Foods, cook, have their coaching experience all packed into one day, which was so much fun and great for families. Great when I was seeing a bunch of people. But I think it's important to know that. And I think that also the thing that you pointed out that I just wanted to circle back to is knowing what the duration of that offer is. When we're
Mhm.
packaging, there are some people that do single sessions. They are
Yeah.
not, it's not the bread and butter. It's not what we were expecting, but Brendan Bouchard even teaches his high performance coaches that you want to have a single session, a 60 or 90-minute session as an entry, because that person will be so wowed. And that person may, especially if you're in the beginning times of your coaching, we feel that insecurity. We've got
Mhm.
that money mindset stuff that comes up. We haven't had success with clients. We've probably had success with a ton of different family members. And truth,
Yeah.
guys, just a hint, you should reach out to them and get their testimonials for friends and family if you've helped anyone. But I think knowing in the beginning that I had that low cost offer that was a single session, and that I knew my goal was to upsell them to my higher touch, higher ticket, which was a 3-month program. So, but I also had like a 28-day program that I did as a do-it-yourself and 2 sessions. So somebody would get that win because I knew from my ideal client, they needed to have my support in some way, especially with gut issues, with detoxification issues, autoimmune. I just knew that why sell it just as a do it yourself? Why not include 2 sessions? And all of a sudden, packaging that made it a no brainer for somebody to say yes.
Yeah, yeah, and also it really helps to provide clear results, so that they can see that when they go to visit your work with me page. Like I remember, I think where we went to school, like they set us up decently, right? It's not their job to set up our business, it's just to really educate us in nutrition. But without knowing that, knowing all what took place in getting your business going, it was like, okay, well, now I got this website that was kind of given to me, and the results were very general. It was not niche. It was like, you're going to get a holistic transformation, and you're going to learn how to eat healthier and feel great. And I'm just like, well, that's wonderful. But, people, they really wanted that nitty gritty of like,
Want to
what is
know
it?
what they're getting. And I think I always talk about coaching packages like going to a car dealer and looking at the base package to the sport. They're very different specifics in there. And you want to read what's included in the package, because when we get into now pricing, let's talk about average price. I would say average price for a brand new coach that I see for an hour is usually like $90. And
Yeah.
then I see, and I would always suggest, because there is a definite like general rule of pricing, like I see novice coaches at what, that $1,000 program for 3 months is $333 a month. I would
Yeah.
say that the novice is in between 1,000 to 2,000.
Yeah. And I remember like going to B school. And I was still doing both. I was copywriting, and I was still like doing some health coaching. And I was really scared to like raise my rates. I was just like that fear of like, well, then what if I lose, out on the people that I want to help? And what if they don't have the money? Like all those thoughts that come into play. And everyone was like, oh, well, all these different coaches, well, we charge $150 an hour. And I was like, wow,
Right.
that's like crazy. Like my mind couldn't understand the concept.
Right.
But then they were like, well, sit down, break up. How much time do you actually spend? And it's interesting because if you really calculate that, there are some coaches out there that think they're making $75, $90 an hour, but the amount of time that they're charging for their package, like, and what they're spending,
Creating
it can
their follow-up,
be dollars an hour. Yeah.
I mean, I know one of the reasons that I love our recipes is I sat there, every client who came to me, and that's why I always put what was included in that package. Like, what is that transformation? But also, what are those recipes that they're getting? Because I would spend hours going on
Yeah.
to like Josh Axe's website and finding
Yeah.
something. And there
Yeah.
weren't tons of recipes back then when I was coaching, that there
Mhm.
were not
Yeah.
simple recipes.
Exactly. They were very difficult. Yeah, I remember being like, for the person who's typically eating like a regular American diet, and to hear even like words that they can't pronounce, it was just
Right.
that's hard to really introduce. So also like knowing your client, which I love, what I loved most even back then about like the done for you programs was that there were different types. There was like clean eating meals, right? And then that were like more basic. And then there was like the detox plan. And there was just so much to actually select from to be able to say, okay, like I loved the idea of doing seasonal detoxes. Then I loved like more of the clean eating, like revitalized type program. So there were like certain things that I pieced together that I liked being able to offer options to also reach clients at different levels where they were at, you know?
Levels. And I think that's the thing about pricing. When I think about coaches, and I know them who charge 650 an hour plus, some of them charging 9 who do tests and everything. But I think those coaches really believe in what they're offering, and they make it very specific, like what they're going to get, and they make sure that they are being time efficient, because just as you said, if you're charging a certain amount per hour and then all of a sudden you're putting in so much time after, it just sucks you up. So before we get on to nitty gritty more about pricing, what would you say in conclusion, the biggest takeaway from packaging your programs?
Yeah. So for packaging, know how much of yourself you're putting into that, which would be like your coaching sessions, your communication, any type of level of different types of support. And also, what do you want to give them in exchange as well to help support them on their journey? Whether that's like a certain number of recipes, different types of guides, it could be modules, that maybe they're watching, they get access to a membership area. I mean, there's a ton of different things that you can do. So it's really a matter of what type of client experience you want to give them and the level of support from a coach that they need to actually stick with the program. Yeah. So defining that.
Well, and I think just to even recap, it's like looking at your offer as a mini sales page of what's included. That person has to want to jump in and go to that next level with you. And that's why I love a low cost offer and I love a high cost, because it gives that person who may be on the fence a way to test drive you, but making sure that in a single session, you're going over a distinct transformation, that you're going over a distinct program, because, and I always say for 60-minute sessions like that, or 90-minute, it's so easy to do a 7-day program, so easy to do a 14-day program and kind of go over that material.
Yeah. Even the same, thinking it through the lens of like going to a holistic doctor, right? Like I've gone to so many, and, I've paid big money for a 1-hour session to know that I'm going to walk away with some level of knowledge of what's wrong with me so that I could fix whatever the symptom is, and have some type of solution, whether it was floral essences or certain probiotics or whatever. Like I knew what I was walking away with was going to help me. And then you continue going if you still have issues, or you tackle one symptom at a time. Like it's the same exact thing, I think, with the single sessions from a coach. If you can promise, something that they can walk away knowing that will help them feel a little, even an ounce better. It
like
becomes
a mini win. How I look at a low cost offer is like, it's an opportunity for somebody to come in and just get a taste of what it would be like to work with you. Nobody
builds
trust, and it builds trust. And you can say right away, I know you signed up for a 60-minute session. Would you want to continue? Let me tell you what it would look like to work with me for 3 months. This is what's included. So that's a totally different offer. Yeah. So all of a sudden I'm bringing value. I'm knowing what the transformation is that I'm offering. I'm knowing that system, that method. We talked about one-on-one, but of course there's so many different ways to work with people. You can price for your one-on-one. You can price for a container, like meeting with people per month, like a mastermind container. You can do memberships. So let's kind of dive into pricing for groups. How have you always looked at, what is your rule of thumb for pricing for a group?
Yeah, I mean, how I've always really looked at it was really what I wanted to or needed to make right on that offer for the amount of time. So like, for example, if it's, let's say like an 8-week, group program or something like that, and within that 8-week period, like you need to make, this is just an example, like $10,000 or something, let's say, and then you can break it up like, okay, that equals like 5,000 each month. How many people would I need to get into that program to make that, and then I would kind of like divide it by, okay, X amount of people, and figure it out that way. And also make sure it balanced with what I was giving and the amount of time that I was spending with them. So if I had to add anything, whether it was bonuses or continued support after or anything like that, that's how like I would typically do it. So I think really looking at, also from the angle, if you're a full-time coach, what you need to make, and then also if you're doing it part-time, maybe that would give you a little bit more wiggle room if you have a full-time job still. But typically, at least I would say at least like 1/3 of your coaching rate, so that this way.
And prices, of course, always relative because it's really based on that person's pricing strategy. So like one of the examples that I have on my wall here is doing a group coaching program at 97, which I would not suggest anything over 30 days. I mean, 97 is usually more a 14-day program. 97, 20 people is a goal of 1,940. Upsell to 150 an hour, 3 people out of those 20, and then upsell to the 3-month program at 5. I'd have this at like 591, which is cheap.
Yeah. And that's true too. Talking about that upsell. Yeah. Cause I remember many times, like even just as like a copywriter, like doing programs with people and then exceeding my own goals because people would reach out after like, oh, well, that was really great. You helped me get clear on my story, but now can you write my website, or something? And it would be very similar to, when you're in health coaching, it's like, wow, well, this was really great. And I really enjoy the group experience. Now I want a little bit more private one-to-one time or something. So adding in the upsells and things like that that's like a great, thing to mention, because I don't know if health coaches really look at it from that angle.
Oh, and I think that we have to look at an upsell always. As a brand new coach and as we're up leveling. As a brand new coach, we just have to think, if somebody wants to do a do-it-yourself, what is that next step? That's an upsell. If we really demystify marketing and look at just what does this mean? It means we are taking our ideal client through a specific journey with a specific transformation. And in what time can that be accomplished? So when we really look at our offers, I think that it is important for us always to think, I'm on a discovery cell. What's that next? I'm on a discovery call. What's that next step? Is it a low cost offer? Do you have more than even 2 offers, like a low cost and a ticket? Some people have a membership. And what would you see are the average and that can be a downsell. So when you think it's a downsell, you're actually going from that higher price to a downsell.
Yeah. And I think that's also really important for that like money mindset as well, because especially as health coaches just want to help people. And sometimes even at our own expense, like you just have that nature to want to help people, especially if they're really suffering with symptoms or something. And what I've learned, like even, as a copywriter is because my prices now are higher than they ever were, before. And so for me, I kind of look at it like there will be people I speak to that can't afford to work with me, but I still always have something. It's like a little mini offer where it's like, well, hey, I can still help you at this level and help get you started. And that makes me feel good because it's like, okay, well, I'm still helping this person and they're still getting some of the help that they need. They might have to meet me halfway and, do some of the work too. But that's always good to have something to be able to help someone with. So look at the downsell opportunities of, if they can afford your coaching, maybe that's where
or like a do-it-yourself. And if you want to include, and I would say, guys, the biggest thing about packaging is sweetening the deal. I always in my packages gave like a free gift and gave an extra like 2 bonuses to my clients. One would be like an essential oil and another would be a skin brush or a tongue scraper. I would send like really cute little things. Another thing that you can always do to sweeten a group program is you can give a 20-minute session for everyone. Look at that. Now you might say, wow, that's taking a lot of time. But if you actually can get 20 people on a phone call for 20 minutes, it's really not a lot of time to be able to have an opportunity to build that trust and to take them to a next offer.
And it's pretty close to like a free discovery session anyway. So really it's like booking your calendar that you would want to happen, so I think that that's really important to always include.
And then I would say that I'm seeing a lot of what people are doing masterminds. And when you're doing a mastermind, it's a little more higher touch, but it's in a group. So I'm seeing prices in masterminds like $497 a month or even higher because you're getting an hour session with that person in the month. Or
Yeah.
you're getting like 2 30-minute sessions with group calls as well. So I would say that kind of covers, would you say on average, just to conclude even the pricing, that you see a 3-month program typically for like 1,000 or 2,000 for a novice coach?
Yeah, I would say that's also in people's comfort zone, and the cool thing is about being your own boss, right? Is that you can give yourself a raise as you
You can
get
change
more
your price
clients.
at any time. I always say evaluate that every 3 months. Let me just
Yeah.
say, if a coach is charging $550 an hour, I'm taking out my calculator, guys, an hour. So let's just say the month comes out to 1,000. So we kind of have to look when we're getting into that next stage, how many sessions are you including? If it's looking at 1,000, then you're at a 3K program. If you're looking, if you want to add in that extra time, like you said, to really give a buffer, I mean, I see coaches that are like 3,000 and plus. I know at the end of my business, I was 2,500 a month.
Yeah.
3-month program, that's 7,500.
And also mentioning like what you mentioned earlier, like so many health coaches have an abundance of certifications and knowledge. I see it all the time. Like don't underscore that. Like that should just be, use that every time you get a new certification, like give yourself a raise, because that's additional training. And to be honest, if you were in corporate and you were going above and beyond and getting all this different training and certifications, they would be giving you a raise.
Well, and I think the biggest thing when we talk about that imposter syndrome, and I know in the beginning, I was so scared to charge. I mean, I was charging, God, $197 for the month. I remember. And struggling. I don't even know how I made 13K that first year. a lot of overwhelm, a lot of seeing people. But I was charging $197 a month. And it wasn't until I really knew what I was offering in each package, who really it was for, who was not my ideal client. Because you then get to a point where you're at that choosing, like, that somebody is not your ideal client because doing the work with them is going to take you so much more time because you're researching. It's just not good anyway. Outsource that to another coach friend.
Yeah.
But once I knew what I was including, I didn't have that shaky feeling when I would say my price. Once I believed in it. And I think that's the other thing, is that as a new coach or even as a seasoned coach, and maybe it's a new program, it's like, do beta testing. Try to get clients, even if you have to go at a lower rate, to just build up that repertoire of success stories in your mind. I think that's so important for when we're working with our prices, starting prices, and of course, the ones that we, are up leveling to.
Yeah. I think that's so important. Knowing what you specialize in and what kind of results you can give your clients and what they get out of it. It's hard to put a value on that, but we shouldn't undervalue it. That's for sure.
When we think about, I mean, I even on my board in my room have different how to make 60K, 8,500. So even on one of them, it's like $597 a month. If you really think about 10 clients, that comes out to be 71,640 for the year. So it's like when we really get down and dirty and you think 597, oh my God, is somebody going to pay for that? But when you really think of how much you're giving, go back to what's included, see how you're going to package that brilliance to really make it pop and make it a no-brainer. But most importantly, know what you're offering and why, because that confidence will come in. With that clarity comes confidence in our offers, in our packages, in our pricing.
Yeah. And I always kind of look at the angle too, from like car payments, right? People buy, lease and buy cars all the time. Car payments can range anywhere from a couple hundred to, way more than that, and they buy it. They do that because one, they need to get from point A to point B, but also because it is the vehicle that's going to get them, around, and they'll still spend extra expenses, right? Like they still, let's say they're buying the coach that's going to get them from point A to point B, and then they still, like, they would get gas to fuel it. They would go to the grocery store and buy their food. Like, it's the same concept. If they know that it's going to help them, they will buy it. And there's proof that people are doing that every day.
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing, because too often in the beginning, we have all of those really big fears, like, am I going to get hired? Is anyone, but it's like, we really have to, I feel that a big thing that happened for me in that 2-year mark, 2.5, when I was like struggling to figure out what exactly I was doing, spending a lot of time creating my own programs, and having little kids, is I really needed to get to that place where all of those fears weren't running me. And I remember the day where I was just like, screw it. I'm going all in with this. I'm going to charge my worth. I'm going to figure out for each ideal client, this pathway that I have for fixing your gut, this pathway for detoxing your body, this pathway for food allergies. And just when I got super crystal clear, that was when not only did I feel that I could charge my worth, but people were coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah. 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 Just putting that energy out, and then people receiving that and seeing it and like, okay, yeah, she believes in what she's selling. I believe in it too. I think that's super important.
So with all of our listeners, what would you say is your biggest advice for pricing?
Value yourself. I think that's so important. And if you really struggle with valuing yourself and believing in yourself, work on that a bit before really setting your price. And if you have to get a coach to help you with that, do, but also reaching out to other peers and health coaches and groups and asking them, like, hey, get some feedback. Hey, this is what I plan on offering. What would you charge? What would you charge? Just feel people out if you need to build that confidence, because you have to value yourself to charge a decent value. If you're not doing that, chances are there's like some self-belief stuff going on.
I love that you brought that up, because I know for me, self-worth issues have always been really a big, like my big deep work, and that money mindset. I know some people don't deal with that internal fear of self, or not that internal fear that they won't get hired. Some people they're fearful, but they're not like disabled. And I knew that self-worth stuff was really a biggie for me. And so I always say, even if you need to go and hire a health coach to take you through that journey, or a business coach, or work on the mindset part, but especially that self-worth, because the moment that you own that and you honor that, the price is just going to flow out of your mouth, and that confidence will come out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I hired a coach a long time ago to help me with that, because I never realized that I had struggled with so many deep rooted issues from, just even being a kid when it comes to, when it comes to self-worth and value. So sometimes we sit with things that we don't even know we have until it shows up in our business. Like, whoa, really? Okay.
That's why I always say building my health and wellness business was the best therapy that I ever went through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it will pull on every string that says, oh no, I don't think you can do this. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. All of those negative Nelly, it takes a lot of rewiring. And I know, most importantly, it is, like we said, that inner work to be able to really shine in your business. Yeah. All right. So guys, we're going to conclude this episode. If it was helpful, leave a review, share it with a friend, and price your programs, package those with beauty and brilliance so that you get the money that you deserve. And most importantly, transform people's lives. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next Healthy Hustle podcast. Peace out.